Hello, White Sox fans, and welcome into a Sunday Funday edition of the Sox On Tap podcast. It is your host, Tony Marchese, alongside NWI Steve out there at Valley Forge Auto, and my big soccer guy, Bez Beyond the Pen. How are you folks doing tonight?
Hey, yo, Antonio, doing well. Bez, good to see you as always. It's good to get back on here and talk a little White Sox baseball and such.
Yeah. Good to see you yourself there, Steven, Tone. Good to see you again. It's been just a few hours. Hope all is well since then.
It's only been a couple of hours. We're still kicking over here. The beers are still flowing, Bez.
Oh,
beers are still flowing. It was a good ball game. We got out to the park today. It was a nice little family Sunday. Celebrated my guy Southpaw's 21st birthday. It was also apparently my birthday for a minute there, Bez. I don't know if you remember that, but I'm apparently celebrating a birthday too today. And the Sox weren't able to get the sweep, but it was still a good time at the ballpark, Bez, if I do say so myself.
It was. It couldn't.
Ballpark was great.
The ballpark was great, as always. Beers were flowing, like you said. It was your birthday. I just wish they'd gotten the bats going a little bit earlier than the ninth inning, or not giving up a 2-run homer to Bobby Witt in the inning before that, and we might see an extra innings. But either way, 4-3 on a homestand against two division rivals. I'll take it.
I'll take it as well. And I'm the one that sat here earlier in this week. I believe it was after the first Detroit Tigers game. I put out something online that said they're going to be lucky to win a single game this week. It was a good week in White Sox baseball, and there's a lot of off the field stuff that was going to fuel some of this discussion.
There was?
I think so. There was a lot of off the field stuff that I think we should probably start this episode off talking about. Steven, I'm gonna run this over to you because you put a lot of words together over at ontapsportsnet.com about this very subject. Yes. I maybe almost a couple 2,000 feels like it. I mean, it was a long article. Baz, I think both you and I edited that one. It was one of the longer ones. But Steven, why don't you talk about our pal Jerry Reinsdorf making a big announcement this week in White Sox land?
Well, I think first, and I think the timing of this announcement was all very interesting because, very early on last week, we had the announcement from the soccer team. I know Bez is a big soccer guy here. Had the announcement from the soccer team here that they are actually going to be building a new privately funded stadium in the 78. It's always easy to get things accomplished when you use your own money. And I mean, who knew a guy from Munster, Indiana could ruffle Jerry Reinsdorf's feathers so much? Joe Mansueto out there, doing things and, kind of stealing the thunder a little bit. And I think in some ways that might have been a little bit of a precursor to this announcement. I just found the timing very interesting. A couple days later, the press release comes out that we have a succession plan put in place here for the reign of terror to officially come to an end. So starting in 2029 through 2033, Jerry Reinsdorf will have the option to sell controlling interest of our beloved Chicago White Sox to Justin Ishbia at the sole discretion of Mr. Jerry Reinsdorf, the spawn of Satan himself. At which point then, after the 2034 season, the option becomes that of Justin Ishbia on whether or not he ultimately wants to become the sole controlling owner of our beloved Chicago White Sox. So the timing of this and the mechanics of it are very interesting. There was talk in the press release about a capital infusion for 2025 and 2026 made by the Ishbia family, including his brother Matt and his father as well, which kind of raises some interesting questions and some things I highlighted in my column where they talk about paying down some of the debt, which I find fascinating because for a team that does not own their ballpark and just does have to pay rent on it, has stripped payroll down to the point of, being a below league average payroll. What debt is Justin Ishbia really in charge of helping to finance at this point? I mean, as I talked about with some of the numbers in the column here, 40-man CBT payroll for 2025 is $91.5 million and goes down to $34.6 million in 2026. Does Jerry Reinsdorf really need help with funding that at this point? Because it would seem to me if he needs help to fund payroll at that low of a level, he should probably just cash out now. So
I'm surprised it's even 91 million. I'm surprised it's even that high.
well, I mean, you got deferrals in there and other stuff. I mean, it's
Like
Andrew Benintendi.
and Robert, that's got to be like almost half of it.
Yeah. I mean, so that does comprise a sizable portion of it there. So the mechanics of this transition are going to be very odd, to say the least here. And I feel like there probably were a lot of people kind of looking at this and seeing this as like, oh my God, yes, Justin Ishbia is going to start infusing capital and the White Sox payroll is going to jump up significantly as a result of this. And I'm going to be honest, I hate to piss in people's cheers here. I don't see it. I think especially, and one of the things I highlighted in my column was with the CBA expiring after next season here. It's very clear Jerry Reinsdorf is still calling the shots here from an everyday operational standpoint with things. And this payroll is not going to jump a lot. I just don't see it, especially knowing that we're going into the last season of the collective bargaining agreement here. So I want people to kind of temper their enthusiasm a little bit, and people thinking that 2029 is going to be, the liberation of this franchise. Again, I think that Jerry is going to keep this thing until 2033, health permitting. As I talked about with the 100th anniversary of the All-Star game, and I was able to dig up that quote from 2013. It seems very clear he wants to be here and be a part of the festivities for the 100th anniversary of the first Major League Baseball All-Star game that took place at original Comiskey Park. And if this team is able to find a way to secure a new ballpark in the Chicagoland area somewhere, whether it's at the 78, building at the corner of 35th and Shields, maybe, building a third ballpark there, or, hey, if they want to go down to the land where the Tinley Park Convention Center is, okay, that's fine too. But I would think that they would want to try to have that event, and that could serve as the place for the transition to happen here. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel here, but I think people need to exercise caution with this because this is not going to be an overnight thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely not expecting him to leave until 2034. That's my expectation. I don't see it happening. I don't see him going away just because. I mean, other than his health, I don't see any reason why he would move on. So I'm gonna just assume that that's the case, and I totally agree. I mean that I didn't even know that quote existed, and I kind of had this inkling that for the 100-year anniversary, he might want to be around for that. Yeah, it's still pretty cool that there's a light at the end of the tunnel that's going to be real one day. Maybe I should try to make sure that I start making some healthier lifestyle choices so that I live long enough. Because 9 years is a long time. Anything can happen. Maybe one less beer at the ballpark.
One less beer at the ballpark. A couple less hot dogs here and there. Watch your sodium, nitrates, all that good stuff. Steve's on a health kick. He did say before he left X that he's not the competitive eater that he once was. So we know he's trying to take care of himself. That's why
it's a young man's game, Antonio.
That is what it is. It is what it is. You're getting up there, Steven. We're worried about you.
It happens.
So you're under the impression, and I think a lot of people are, that this was sort of a PR move by the Chicago White Sox, more or less, than an actual. I mean, the announcement does say, here's what's going on. I don't know if this came together quickly or if this was what we were talking about back in, what was it, February, March? January, around that time frame when there was the reported increase in investment by the Ishbias into the White Sox when he abandoned the pursuit of the Minnesota Twins. Do you think that this has been in place all along and they saved this one up and
Yes.
released it out at the first sign of bad press?
Yes, 100%. Like we talked about, that night we did the emergency show on that Friday, when the deadline passed for the minority owners to kind of sell off their shares to Justin Ishbia here. They talked about at the time that there was no formal transition plan in place or no path. Like, I think they specifically said there was no path to ownership. I think we all called bullshit on that. Like we talked about at the time, there was no conceivable reason for Justin Ishbia to be in the driver's seat to purchase those shit bags from Canada South, all of a sudden abandon it to just, like give Jerry Reinsdorf, a loan. Like it never made sense. So yes, I mean, I think this always was in place, and it was just a matter of, okay, well, when's going to be the right time for us to, drop this bomb? And, the fire coming in and doing a little bit of trolling at the 78. I think Jerry and, old Brooksy saw this as the right opportunity to deploy that weapon.
And break some news. And that came right at the same exact time that the network owned by Jerry Reinsdorf, CHSN, also suddenly became available on Xfinity, something that's really plagued not only the Chicago White Sox, but also the Bulls and the Blackhawks too. It was, you get that, and then you get Kyle Teal called up. It was the perfect PR storm for the Chicago White Sox hours after all of that news broke. I don't know if I would say that was like a PR masterclass, but it was pretty close. That's how you get people excited, at least my opinion. Because
in
those
the middle of a homestand, when you split
right
with the Tigers, I mean, it could, if it was all about PR, it worked out perfectly, because nobody was saying service time manipulation with Kyle Teal, because that was right after the Super 2 cutoff day. So
weird.
So that kind of slid under the radar there too. Not that that's because it's not a huge deal whatsoever compared to all the other stuff. So yeah, it's I was never too I tried my hardest not to get too excited about the Ishbia news when it first broke, because there were just way too many questions. There still kind of is. But yeah, hopefully we can just figure out a way to get a better ball club in the meantime.
The one interesting thing that I also found in the announcement was almost an omission of sorts. They talk about the fact that the ability to transfer ownership to Justin Ishbia starts in 2029. What if, hypothetically, let's just say here, I believe this is a hypothetical. Let's say, an 89-year-old, something happens. Because you're 89. I mean, making a 9-year plan at that age, it's a bold strategy. Let's just call it what it is.
Aggressive.
It's very bold. Yes. Although with the advances in modern science and his high level income, I mean, it might be feasible. But let's just say something happens. It doesn't say anything about there being an ability for there to be a transition prior to 2029. And I think that that's an important thing that people will kind of look at and wonder about a little bit. Could it possibly happen earlier? We don't know, because that wasn't really specified, and just kind of reading the tea leaves and, seeing again some of those quotes that Jerry has put out there in the past of telling Michael and his other sons to sell controlling interest in the Sox when he passes. Is that a discussion that would be had, or is there a plan in place? They just don't want to say it. So I think that's one other interesting variable to think about with all of this.
For sure. I think there's definitely a plan like that behind the scenes. I feel like we've heard that rumored before, that was his intention, was for the family to sell the White Sox and to keep the Bulls in the family. I think I've heard that said or rumored before. So maybe that happens if your hypothetical becomes a reality.
I like the fact that you call out the omission here, though, Stephen, because my initial thought to that is who becomes the owner upon some event like that taking place. I would assume it would be Michael Reinsdorf. And I would assume that the first person that he goes to is the Ishbias, given this is in place. However, how this is all worked out and the way that they were so adamant that no transfer of ownership takes place until 2029 makes me wonder if there are certain plans within this ball club and certain business activities that are Jerry Reinsdorf agenda that have to happen between now and 2029 before they would divest. So I don't know how that would go, but I think it would probably throw a wrinkle in things in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think that likely is the case. And look, I think now at this point it's a waiting game. And I just hope that people out there aren't dancing in the streets and throwing parties thinking that, okay, the end is near. Because I just don't see it that way. I don't see this big infusion of cash to up the payroll significantly happening.
Let's ask this question. Has any other baseball owner said, I'm selling the team in 9 years and here's going to be the new owner? Seems like a very odd.
I believe there's a similar situation in Cleveland right now, actually, with the Dolans. It's not quite 9 years. I think it's like a 5-year plan. But I feel like there is a scenario like that in place, and okay. I think that
I didn't know if this was unprecedented.
Yeah, and because I think that was something that was talked about back in January when the initial rumors and reports came out about Ishbia increasing his share in the team.
Got you. Yeah, it's just
it's different.
It is different, and for all intents and purposes, I guess we have a light at the end of the tunnel to, I guess, look forward to. It just feels very far away because I don't think if Jerry's around, I don't think there's any chance of this happening until 2034.
I still, 2034 probably happens, but again, we might see that transition of power All-Star Week 2033 if they get the new ballpark and they get the game that year, because that would be, I think a symbolic moment for the franchise.
Jerry loves cinema, that's for sure.
That he does.
So let's talk a little bit about the CHSN thing for a minute here. Stephen, how have you been consuming your White Sox baseball these days? Are you on the app?
I am on the application, yes.
You're on the application. Bez, were you an antenna guy or were you?
I am apparently one of the very, very few people in the Chicagoland area that has DirecTV streaming service. The only other person I know who has it is our buddy Kenneth. So it's just me and Ken living that life.
You and Ken on the DirecTV. Interesting.
Well, at least there's somebody who's not fat that has it.
I was surprised. I'm not surprised by Xfinity here telling people to take the antenna access away. But as someone who owns multiple antennas to try and bring Jerry's network into my home for free, I found a lot of people pissed off this week that they're canceling the free antenna service after CHSN. Their whole business model from the get-go was we want to make this accessible to as many people as we possibly can. And we're gonna make it free for you as long as you have an antenna. And then at the first, time Xfinity gets signed on, it's like we're gonna rip that right out. There's a lot of people mad, and I thought that was something that sort of went under the radar a little bit this week in all of this news as well was that he just basically took away access to watch some of these games for people who took the time to go out to their local Walmart and buy an antenna and bring it into their home just to watch these games. Understand why Xfinity doesn't want that out there to compete against it. But how did you guys feel that this rollout went this week? I know neither of you are Xfinity customers, but did you guys see any sort of, reaction to this, people you talked to?
The only, reaction that I got to it was, my parents are Xfinity subscribers. So my dad has not consumed a single White Sox game this year that wasn't on Fox on like a Saturday afternoon. So, he now has the ability to watch the games. So, he didn't really
Old man's happy again?
Less bitter.
He wants to watch this fun, bad baseball team.
He's marginally less bitter. I don't think happy and him are synonymous with each other unless he's eating a slab of ribs, but that's a different story. Yeah, I mean, this whole thing, with the carriage services for the RSNs at this point is ridiculous. I mean, like I went and I looked at the numbers, like, okay, would it make sense for me to go and to get Xfinity for watching this? And it's so much more expensive because of the tier that it's in. And I mean, I can't understand how in the year of our Lord 2025, I can't as a consumer have the ability to say, I want these 25 and only these 25 channels because this is all I watch. And if you want to have tiers for them, if you want to like a la carte it and make, CHSN a higher per month cost than, the Disney Channel, okay, fine, whatever. I don't give a fuck. But let me pick the channels that I want to watch. We have the technology. We should be able to do this.
But then they're not going to make you pay for stuff that you don't use. I mean, that's just not the way business is done, Steven.
Well, I mean, that's not the way that that's the way that a lot of other businesses are done, just not telecom in the year of our Lord 2025.
Yeah. I saw a lot of people mad about the antenna. There were a lot of antenna people out there. And it is so incredibly stupid you get rid of it in Chicago, in Southern Illinois, like Champaign and places like that, but you've got it in Iowa. It's like
that hotbed of White Sox fandom.
Right. I mean, you've had the Iowa Cubs out there for years. I'm pretty sure that's a pretty big, that's Cubs Nation out there. I may correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't know. I don't know what the point is.
We've got our guy Iowa Sox out there.
We've got some Iowa people out there. That's true. But I'm hopefully those guys are happy. I'm glad that they are. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You had so much good press going for you.
I feel like that was a lost deal for CHSN. But it's probably not because they're going to make a lot more money being on Xfinity. We'll see. I mean, maybe we'll get, some more Howard Enkin ads on there now instead of
I could send them a text and find out.
I'm sure it's only going to help their advertising department being in many more households.
Yeah, listen, if we get that advertising back, increasing again, my guy Julio Costa from Costa Ivoni Law, they got the radio side handled. I mean, I've got my people handling all the advertisements here for White Sox baseball, baby.
Yeah, there you go. We're gonna bring back Bing Bang Bong, Illinois Lottery.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
The Sox were good when Big Bang Bong was on in between innings.
Big Bang Bong guy.
Besnick, were you a Big Bang Bong fan?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I missed what I missed the most is the $100 for every homer for
Alex Snellius in loving memory of Ursula.
And the Snellius family for in loving memory of Ursula. I love that ad read. That's my all-time favorite.
You know how Alex Nellius made his money?
No, or not.
Big lottery. He was a lottery winner.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I knew that.
Yeah.
This went
Yeah.
full circle.
Yeah.
Went for full circle real fast. That's all I've got for CHSN, though. I want to move into, is this team fun bad? Because this has been the topic on the internet. Steven, I know you're not on the internet anymore. You don't frequent online, but I've seen the term fun bad tossed around a lot in the past week or so. So I'm going to give each of you guys a little bit of a chance to speak on this hotly contested debate that keeps continuing to rage online. Steven, floor is yours, my friend.
Are the 2025 White Sox fun bad? No, the fuck they are not. A team that averages 3.48 runs per game and has won 6 games on the road cannot meet the definition of fun bad in my baseball world. It does not make sense. So whoever is throwing this out there, I would like to ask them what game they're watching, or do I maybe need a different TV because maybe I'm not watching the same games through the application. I don't know, because I'll tell you this much. Last weekend in Baltimore, there was nothing fun bad about that. And that happens quite a bit. Again, 3.48 runs per game. That's fucking dog shit. Okay. Bez, we've talked about this in the group text here. The 2019 White Sox were what I would categorize as fun bad. That was a team that went 72-90. They averaged 4.5 runs per game. They averaged a full run per game more. Tim Anderson won a batting title. Jose Abreu led the American League in RBIs. Jose Abreu hit for a cycle in September against the San Francisco Giants. Eloy Jimenez hit 30 home runs as a rookie. You had the outlier, Yoan Moncada, power year because of the super bouncy ball where he played like a top 25 to 30 player in the sport when his slug actually started with a 5. James McCann was beating the shit out of the ball and people were clamoring for him more and more. You still have Luis Robert Jr. down in the minor leagues ready to go. Lucas Giolito turned the corner from being the worst pitcher in baseball.
I was waiting for that.
Remember that. So you had all these things happening that gave you hope for the future, and you still had at the time a farm system that was highly regarded. So you had optimism and hope for the future. You were a team that you went from 61-101 the prior year to 72-90. And I'll tell you this much, I actually did have a lot of fun at the ballpark that year. I remember famously, because back when Dollar Dog Wednesdays were a thing, Dylan Cease's debut on July 3rd. It was a balmy 100 degrees for game 1 of that doubleheader against the Detroit Tigers. And I remember sitting in that ballpark on that day, eating 14 hot dogs in game 1. And then game 2, Moncada hitting the home run to tie the game in the bottom of the 9th. And then they walked that shit off. That was fun. This team has too many nights where they score 1 or 2 runs, and it's just a lot of non-competitive bats. We saw that from the end of the first inning today till the 9th inning. And you guys were in the ballpark for that. Did it seem fun to you at that point when the offense went non-existent for 8 fucking innings? Because, again, maybe I need a new TV. It's been several years since I've procured one. It didn't seem fun to me while I was watching that. So I just can't wrap my mind around this idea that all of a sudden that this team is fun bad because Miguel Vargas has had a nice 6 weeks and Kyle Teal has had a nice 3 games to begin his major league career. And Mike Tauchman, a guy that's not going to be when the team is relevant again. Like, there's not enough juice here to say that this thing is fun bad because you have too many prolonged stretches where they don't fucking score.
So, Stephen, let me ask you this, because this is what I hear people saying online. So, you missed this good stuff, is that Fangraphs is now projecting them to win 61 games, and a 20-win improvement is, in fact, fun bad.
A 20-win improvement is nice, but I can't categorize a team that still loses 100 games as fun bad. Now, I will give this caveat, okay? We could get to a point in August if Vargas continues to have success the way he is right now, if Maedroth continues to show that he is a competent everyday major league player, if Kyle Teal provides some nice offense, if Edgar Caro gets out of this funk that he's in, and if maybe if Colson Montgomery were to come up and have a modicum of success, I leave open the possibility that the last 2 months of the year could get to that fun bad level. It's possible, okay? You could close the year like in the second half, like if you played 10 games under 500 in the second half. I'm willing to allow for the possibility
of improvement,
right? But you have to see signs that going into 2026 that this thing has turned a corner, because that's kind of what we saw in 2019. If it's 61 wins built on the back of Adrian Hauser and Mike Tauchman, I'm sorry, that doesn't do it for me.
No, I'm with you on all of that. As the analytics people say, a replacement level team is about a 50-win team. That means just quad A baseball players, a full team of them, should in theory win about 50 games. Last year's White Sox team should have won closer to 50 games, like 47, 48. So even from there, that's just positive regression to get to 50. And then 61 is still like a 10-win improvement. And if you're doing it, like you said, with Adrian Hauser and Mike Tauchman and Benintendi, who won't be on the next good White Sox team, it doesn't really hold up for me. And like you said, it's not fun bad. This offense is terrible. This offense is on pace for like 555, 560 runs. And I hope they get there. So Beef Loaf, shout out to you and your steak dinner bet. Hope you win. But that is terrible. 550 runs is awful. The White Sox scored 507 last year, and it was the lowest output since 1969 by the San Diego Padres in the dead ball era, and they were an expansion team. We're only improving by like 50 runs from that. Over 162 games, that's nothing. There are some cool things happening. Okay, Shane Smith, him coming out of nowhere, Vargas completely turning it around where it looked like, hey, we're just going to have to DFA this guy, and now all of a sudden he looks like a competent player. Hopefully that continues. So Maedroth, obviously, you mentioned that. You have a couple guys in the minors. So there's some cool stuff going on that keeps me interested in watching it every day, but this still isn't exactly fun. It's just fun compared to the rock we just crawled out from under.
And I think that speaks to just as a fan base, like how much have we lowered the bar here to think that if a team wins 61 games, that's fun bad? And like you said, 550 runs.
Horrible.
What? Like Vargas is on pace to lead the team in home runs, and he's on pace to hit like what, 23?
Yeah.
20, again, that's not fun to me.
No. Tony, are you having fun?
I won't say that I'm having fun per se. I will say that there does seem to be a different air with this ball club. And I think a lot of people are categorizing fun bad for young and bad. because I think this team is young. You've got some kids that are showing that they can play a little bit. And we're jumping a little bit in front of what's actually happening here, because I think a lot of people want the team to get to that 2019 point. We're not there yet. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen. I don't see the same level of potential star power with these guys as you did with the last class. However, I think we've got a lot of guys that do play baseball the right way. The plate approach is much different. You're seeing a whole different approach to baseball that looks really refreshing if you're watching it as a product, comparative to what you saw last year, because that was rock bottom. Now, I don't think that 20 game improvement, that's a huge improvement. That's 20 more nights that I go to sleep and I'm much happier than I was last year. But there's still
that would still be the third consecutive 100-loss season, though. That's not
correct.
Like that's not
right.
The bar.
That it's not
the bar is
it's not. Yes, but I think people are trying to force it in a little bit because of how bad last year was.
And see, I think to an extent, and maybe you guys can answer this better, being part of the online community. Is it just a matter of because they're not getting blown out consistently the way they were a year ago?
I think that's
to me, that's kind of maybe what people are misinterpreting, that because they're losing games 2-1, that they, that theoretically even an average team could win. They think that that's fun bad, or because they don't roll over and die the way that they did last year under Mr. Clean.
Yes,
those are okay. Those are positive things, and like you guys said, there are definitely positive things to take from this right now. The overall play, with the exception of like Monday, that game against Detroit, that
Today.
series they had against, that other fucking team, in a 606 zip code a few weeks ago, and the shit in Baltimore last weekend. Like the quality of play has been better than it was a year ago. But again, like that was like a steaming pile of cow dung last year. Right. So it's like, okay, so we're not a steaming pile of cow shit. Now we're just like,
a normal level of terrible.
Right. Like, again, to me,
last year never happened. People would not be describing this as fun bad, is my opinion.
Thank you.
One more thing I'll add to that is the other thing that makes it a little bit, well, there's two things. One is that we have had a handful of blowouts too. We have these random like 9-run explosions and we blow a team out. Like that didn't happen, I don't think, ever last year. And the other thing is we've won a couple additional series, and there's actually a team worse than us. I think that plays a part in it too.
Yeah, but see, then that's going to beg the question: is in September, is that segment of the fan base that was going to the ballpark to cheer against the Sox, are they actually going to be rooting for the Rockies to win games late in the year? That becomes the pivotal question, because are they still going to want Jerry to have to wear this?
It's a fair question.
It is, and I think that there is going to be some people who say, I just want Jerry to have to wear that sort of. But yeah, I think that, you asked a good question. I'm working to confirm.
I appreciate that, because I know this much. I need the Rockies to get another 69 losses. #nice.
I just don't foresee this team reaching fun bad for another 1 to 2 years.
See, I could see it happening. Like I said, I leave open the possibility that it could happen the last 2 months of the season. I think if we have,
I'm not going to be upset if they get to a point this year. or early
honestly,
next.
I feel like
I want him to be good.
Yeah.
I feel like
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I feel like Fun Bad should be the minimum expectation for next season.
I could see that. I could see them getting to. I mean, I don't know. I can see how this year ends.
Don't you kind of need to see like Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz in your rotation to get to that point?
You need to see guys that can hit.
Because I mean, this is all built
the
around
offense
the
is
pit.
the
It's all
problem,
it's all built around the pitching, and the pitching isn't even here yet.
Yeah,
some of the offensive guys are.
I can't. I have a hard time labeling something as Fun Bad when you're not even averaging 4 runs a game. Like to me, fun Bad to me is like a team that is at least somewhat competent offensively. They have a couple of guys that in the lineup that can scare you, and if you make some mistakes, they can hang some numbers on you. But when I just think about like Fun Bad teams, I think about teams that have shitty, leaky bullpens that can't hold leads, and it gets.
You've got one of those.
We've got one of those, but without the offense.
Right, exactly. Which again, like I don't see how that makes this Fun Bad.
No, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. Like to your point, in the 2018 White Sox lost how many games?
101.
101. Okay, but they had Abreu and Anderson to kind of prop things up, and a couple guys to scare you. That was not Fun Bad.
Right.
That was just. I actually thought we would never see a team worse than the 2018 White Sox. Maybe 2013 was pretty close, but now I've seen I think 3 in a row. I think this is going to be the 3rd one in a row that'll worse than that. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah,
not Fun Bad. Final answer.
All right, so there we have it. I think we've come to our conclusions here on this topic.
Am I going to make people mad online with this?
I mean, you might. There's a chance you'll make some people mad online. People were very mad online all week.
They can yell at me.
Big mad online week. Impressions on Kyle Teal so far. While we're on this topic, what are you seeing, Bez?
I love that first game. The moment was not too big for him, and that's the thing with him and my drop too, and Shane Smith. Especially with Shane Smith, these guys have stepped in day one. They didn't look like the moment was too big for them. They didn't cave under the pressure, and they came out and performed. I really liked what I saw. I think in our preseason show, I said that Teal was my breakout prospect. He was the guy that I had my eye on that I've been waiting for. And I love the debut. Couple of hits. 1 hit, couple of walks. He threw a runner out. He had kind of a bad base running play, but he also had the good one too, where he sprinted home and had the heads up play there. So I've liked what I've seen from Teal. Great first impression.
It was a nice opening weekend for him. The plate approach was pretty sound. Took pitches nicely, and pitches, especially breaking balls out of the zone. He spit on them with good regularity. So that was something that, if you just look at the data, he did pretty consistently down across the minor leagues. Was doing that in Charlotte, and obviously in his time with the Ginger Sox before he arrived here. So kind of carrying that over. And look, that's a positive. If he continues to do that, that will certainly be a good thing. Coupled with guys like Mydroth, and even though he's struggling, Caro is still, I think, at least having decent plate appearances. Taking pitches and drawing some walks. So it does seem as though they've got a type for the first time in quite a while on the offensive side of the equation, and that's nice to see.
Yeah, plate approach. It's very interesting to kind of watch this, and the young guys that are coming up all sort of have that same approach. It's I call it the anti-Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez swing at every slider outside and in the dirt. I liked Teal's debut. I think obviously, but as Besnick kind of alluded to, the moment didn't seem too big for him. Playing in front of a packed house too on your first big league game. I'm sure the jitters are there, but It really didn't seem noticeable for him.
But he was working that gum. He
was working
intense
that
at the
gum.
plate.
He made John Striffen very happy.
He did.
And, and that's how you know you got a ball player. When John Striffen comments about how intense you are at the plate, there is nothing more that can be said about you as a baseball player right there. That's a pinnacle of excellence. I just think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens as long as he continues to play this way. I would expect him to get a lion's share of most of the starts behind the plate this season, although there was the talk of him taking grounders at first. We haven't seen him utilized over there yet. Elko's back up with the team. That's something we sort of passed over here so far in this, is that, Tim Elko got the call back up as well. I know both of your guys' favorite first baseman that's on the 40-man roster, Andrew Vaughn, is down in Charlotte still. But, what are you guys' thoughts on the first base situation? Are you comfortable riding it out with Elko for the rest of the year? Do you think Kyle Teal's going to get deployed there? As we talked a lot about the roster logjam, so to speak. So if you got any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them.
I'm surprised that they didn't do this with Teal in the minors at all this year. He didn't get any starts from, last time I checked it, which was a few weeks ago, at first base. Caro, same thing, hasn't gotten any time there at first base. So I feel like one of those guys has to move there at some point. But at the same time, they've started putting Vargas at first base, and all the defensive metrics say he's doing a pretty good job there. So it's interesting how they're going to maneuver this and move guys around. Usually, ideally, I think you have these guys sort out their issues learning a new position in the minors. Maybe they do that at the major league level. I'm not sure. With Vaughn, I mean, we've tried. It's been 5 years since we drafted him. It's time to move on. Elko, he's not in the future. Elko, I don't know what to make of him. I don't see a long-term path for him. Somebody called him Matt Davidson 2.0, and I really like that analogy. So, I mean, it's you've even seen some Lenyn Sosa at first base when he remembers where the base actually is. So yeah, there's a little bit of a logjam there at first base once again. The White Sox always pull it off. But yeah, I'm kind of lost on that one as far as when you move either Caro or Teal to first base. I guess they're learning it at the major league level. I mean, what else? How else do you don't send them back down at this point, do you, Steve?
I was kind of surprised that they didn't send Caro back down when they brought Teal up, given the struggles he's had over the last couple of weeks. I honestly was expecting them to do that. I didn't think that they would send Corey Lee. I mean, first and foremost, I didn't think Corey Lee had options left. So that was, a brain freeze on my part, but I just didn't think that they were going to do this with both Caro and Teal at the major league level. As far as the idea of sending him down to play first base, I don't think that really makes any sense. It wouldn't shock me. It's not like I expect Andrew Vaughn to be back here at some point this year. I'm not advocating for that, but I just think it's going to happen at some point. When that does, I mean, who knows at this
before the trade deadline or after the trade deadline?
I mean,
we got a month and a half.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they kind of have to be hoping that maybe Josh Rojas can start to hit a little bit, and maybe you can move him for a reliever in complex ball or low A, because that would help clear up from a roster logjam standpoint. But I don't really know what else they do here.
You got people clamoring for Brooks Baldwin again. He's 60 plate appearances in AAA with an OPS of 1.17.
Yeah, that is happening. I mean, he's he's going down there and doing what you should do in Charlotte. I know
I'm surprised the fake IL hasn't had a stint on it yet with this roster logjam.
Yeah. That might be something that someone might need to tell Chris Getz that he can utilize. But
yeah, Rick Hahn could call him up and let him know that it exists.
Well, I mean, he's making those media rounds again.
He is. He was on the old MLB network talking about the James Shields trade, which just had an anniversary. I know you guys are big fans of the James Shields deal.
Oh yeah, boy was I.
Big game James. He cost us Bobby Witt Jr. Would have lost more games that year and gotten Bobby Witt instead of Andrew Vaughn. That's the story I'm sticking to.
I hate Robert Witt II.
He's a menace.
Yes, he is. Yes,
he is a menace. He tore the cover off of baseball today. Watched it happen.
One other thing I want to talk about with him, because and I hear Ozzy saying this on the postgame show quite a bit, like calling Witt the best player in baseball. Like Aaron Judge exists.
Just hit his 23rd home run about 5 minutes ago.
I understand Witt plays shortstop and he plays it at a very high level, but the defense, that defense, you're not making up for an almost 400-point swing in OPS. And it's not like Judge is a butcher out there in right field. I mean, they had him playing center field last season. This whole thing about
Shohei Ohtani also exists as well.
Right.
When he's pitching and hitting, yeah.
Right. And so you have and you see this every once in a while on MLB Network on some of these ranking shows where I just, and this isn't to say that Robert Witt II isn't a top 5 to 10 player in the sport, but to say he's the best player in the game, I think we're being a little hyperbolic at this point.
Yeah. No.
I definitely think he's a top 3 to 5 player, but not number 1.
Yeah. That's all very fair.
I'm just glad we took 2 out of 3. One another.
I am, and like we talked about when we got started here. I mean, I legit thought they were going to go 1-6 on this homestand.
So I was hoping to just win 2.
So for them to go 4-3 out of this, I mean, shit, that's a winning scenario as far as I'm concerned.
That's a good week in White Sox baseball, if I do say so myself. I think every time they put together a good little stretch of baseball, that's where you start to get some of the fun bad and all this other stuff. You got to put this together, I think, for a good consistent 2-3 months.
You're gonna have a month above 500.
Yeah, I like this week. I want it to continue.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at right now. I want this to continue because I had a decent amount of fun this week. I would say. I think you guys probably did too, watching the team win. New season of tires came out. It was a good week. Daily Forgiato.
Like Nuke Lelouch famously said, I like winning. It's a lot better than losing.
Yeah. It's a lot better. I agree, Steve. That's an excellent point. Besnick, what do we have on tap for the Chicago White Sox coming up this week after our off day tomorrow?
We are going down to Texas, where I'm told and confirmed that it's not true that everything there is bigger. It is not. It's all the same size. So we got 3 against the Astros and then 3 against the Rangers, who we've both seen these teams already. Took 2 of 3 against the Astros. One of them was a rain-shortened win, which was nice. So the problem is the White Sox, I think, are 6-22 on the road. So that road record has been rough. It's nice to see that we're only 2 or 3 games below 500 at home. So maybe that plays into the fun bad part of it, things, and why that's become a thing for people.
Getting to be at home and witnessing wins is definitely a thing.
Definitely a positive. So given the track record on the road, I don't. I know we're riding high here after the 4-3 homestand, and I don't want to be the guy that throw cold water on it all, or maybe I do. But just don't get swept. That's all I care about. Just don't get fucking swept.
Do you have a series a record prediction for this week?
I'm just gonna go with the don't get swept and go with the 2-4.
2-4. Steven, what do you got?
I agree with Baz here. I think that the White Sox slogan for 2025 should be "Don't get swept." However, I don't think that they're going to be able to execute that strategy in Houston here Tuesday through Thursday. The Astros are starting to play a lot better. They've overtaken the Seattle Mariners in first place in the AL West. I think they probably do get swept down there, and then I think they go up to Arlington after that, right outside of Dallas, and I think they get one there against the Rangers. So I
Will
think
Venable homecoming series.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a 1-5 week here, and so we'll see if the fun vibe bads persist following that.
All right. Well, since both of you guys took 1-5 and 2-4, I'll go 3-3. I think they get one from Houston. Maybe they take two from Texas. Maybe it's reversed. Who knows? But I'll go 3-3.
If you can believe this, Texas has scored less runs than the White Sox. They're dead last in runs scored.
They have a very bad offense.
It really is amazing to think about just how bad that offense has been to this point. I thought they were going to score just a boatload of runs. I mean, obviously not having Corey Seager in the middle part of that lineup plays a significant factor, but you just look up and down that lineup. Marcus Semien, the bad start he's had. Adolis Garcia and his gigantic head have had a terrible start to this season. Friend of the show, Jake Berger, got off to a slow start to the point that he got sent back down to the minor leagues. He's been better since he came back up, but just kind of up and down that lineup. They have not been the team that people thought they were going to be, myself included.
Yeah, it's rough scene there.
On the bright side for them, they are number one as far as runs allowed. So
yeah, they've been pitching the shit out of the ball.
They can pitch the shit out of the ball, and we are not good at hitting the ball. So that is not a good recipe there. And then
so it's kind of an irresistible force versus an immovable object scenario.
Houston is 22-12 at home. So
that seems not good.
That seems not good for us. The numbers don't lie, Steven, and they spell disaster.
You're getting me really excited.
I'm still going 2-4. What was that?
I said you're getting me real excited for this week, Bats.
I'm sorry, man. I'll have the preview of the review and the preview on ontapsportsnet.com in our Sox section.
There we go.
Breaking it all down for you. Previewing the series is ahead.
Yeah, check it out on ontapsportsnet.com. That's beyond the pen over there, writing up all of his White Sox thoughts. We love it. Steven, you've got the most miserable prediction, though, out of everybody here, 1-5.
I'm leading with my head and not my heart.
I'm feeling out there now at 3-3. You guys are telling me it's going to be bad. I hope it's not bad. I hope we get some more wins. This week was decent. I need more of it in my life. I don't know about you guys, but I
agree.
I like going to bed at night, laying my head on the pillow and thinking about a White Sox winner. It's just so much better.
I'm a less miserable person when this team wins baseball games.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Nice.
Any final thoughts before we close this down, gentlemen?
I think it was a good week. You see him go 4-3 against two division rivals. You split a series against a team that has the best win percentage in baseball right now. That's a plus, and I think that is a positive thing that you can build upon. And there are positive things happening here. I don't want it to sound as if I am just, pissing in everybody's Cheerios right now. Do people still eat Cheerios, by the way? I don't know. But I just think people need to just temper the enthusiasm to an extent. Whether it's what we're seeing on the field and what we started the show talking about, the stuff off the field, especially. There are positive things happening. There is a modicum of positive momentum here. Let's just not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I echo all of that. Hopefully, I'm hoping someone does something to spark this offense because they're going to need it this week. Whether it's Teal or Caro, these guys are going to be tested against two really good pitching staffs. So maybe this is going to be the bad part of the fun bad this week. I got more to say about the White Sox pitching, but I'm gonna hold that one back for now. So I don't know. Hopefully the good times keep rolling in Texas. I'm not feeling great about it, but hopefully I'm wrong.
And that's it. Hopefully we go down to Texas and we have some fun, in the wise words of AC/DC there. Be sure you're going to ontapsportsnet.com for all of your Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs. You can find all of our writing in the White Sox over at ontapsportsnet.com in our White Sox section. Guys, it's great to be back on the microphone with you. White Sox forever.
White Sox forever. Unmute yourself.
Muted.
Still muted.
Oh, man.
I think he said White Sox for life. We're gonna.
I think he said White Sox for life. We're working to confirm.
White Sox for life?